Well, welcome back everybody. It is another edition of New Guitar Day. And a Happy New Year to everybody. It is January the 4th, 2024. This guitar was ordered on December the 29th. But due to the holidays, it was delayed in its shipment. So what would have normally taken 2 days to get here took 6 days. But I am a believer in delayed gratification. And since the weather is somewhat frosty outside, not so much right now, but in transit from Salt Lake City up to Great Falls, Montana, this has definitely seen some chilly weather. So we're just going to take it out of box number 1 and let it sit for a little while. Just remove that extra layer of insulation. I don't know if it's going to make a huge difference or not, but it can't hurt. And we're also going to make an observation about packaging. And you can already tell that it is another Gretsch guitar, and it is from Adorama. This is not a paid sponsorship, but since they were nice enough to put their name on their bubble wrap, why not share the good news? So, the first thing we're going to look at before we unbox it is that this box has been taped again. And this makes me suspicious. And the reason why it makes me suspicious is because a factory new guitar should not be taped. So I'm going to make a note of that both in the video and in photographs. You can see that the staples have been popped and that the box is in fact taped. So I've had issue with that with my previous 3 guitars from Adorama, and I'm going to mention it to them again. Again, you can see that it's taped, and it shouldn't be. It should just be stapled. That's been my experience with factory guitars. So we're going to let this sit for a couple hours, since we were incredibly blessed with, once again, UPS's delivery window was from 1:30 to 4:30, and they delivered it at 12:45, which I'm not complaining, but it would be nice if they'd be fairly accurate in their times. So we will be back. Well, welcome back everybody. It has been about an hour and 45 minutes, and I'm pretty confident that the poly finish on this guitar will survive. Again, it's 40 degrees outside when it was delivered. I know it was down in the 20s during its journey, but I don't think that that's too big a stretch. Again, as noted, I want you to see that I am cutting the tape, and in fact the staples have been popped, as you can clearly see. So this was not factory sealed. Whatever that means, I'm not sure. We will investigate further. I'm going to go ahead and put it on hold while I pull it out of its inner box. Be right back. Of course, there's nothing interesting about this aspect of the unboxing, but again, as I've said repeatedly, I do it more for my benefit. You can fast forward to the grand unveiling, which will happen in just moments. Lift it out of this box. Oh yeah, it's a featherweight. By the way, I failed to mention, of course you saw in the box, this is a Gretsch, and this is a G2655, which is the, for lack of a better term, the little brother of the 2622 that I purchased about a month ago. This is the same style of guitar as that, except for this is the more of the ES 339 size. So it's the Honey, I Shrunk the Guitar movie. And again, got it from Adorama, which now has a warehouse in Salt Lake City. So for those folks on the west side of our country, if that guitar happens to be in stock at that warehouse, you get it much quicker than having it come all the way from New York. And this is, I'm trying to think of what they call it. Anyway, as you can see, it's a burst of beauty. Beautiful guitar. You can switch off. Nice burst. A little bit of schmutz on it from the packing material. Very lightweight. I'm going to just buttons feel good. They're a little, I wouldn't say they're sharp, but they're not quite as finished. But it could just be needs a little oil on it. So I'm going to go tune it up, plug it in, and we'll be back. Okay, we're back for just a few brief comments. So the first thing I would like to mention is that Fender / Gretsch packs these guitars incredibly well. They go well above the, I don't know if it's the industry standard, but just based on a lot of guitars that I've gotten, they do a much better job of packing. And Adorama also does a very good job of packing. They put this box, which goes in this box, which came in this box. So it's a triple box guitar. Plenty of protection, and it showed up without any issues. The comments that I have thus far, the guitar plays very nice, sounds really good. The fret ends were a lot sharper on this side than the other Gretsches that I got. So need a little file work there. This is a little flaky, but you know, you can push it out of the way, but who wants to see wires in their F-hole? And the potentiometers on this guitar are garbage. They're either on or they're off. There really is no sweep to it. Given the price that I paid, it was on sale for $219. I can live with it. That puts it in the price range of a Grote or an Indio or 1,000 other guitars of this ilk. If I had paid $449 for this, which is what, you know, I mean, they go on sale all the time, but the MAP price is $449. I would not be happy at all with the potentiometers. I think that they need to spend a little more money, put something in there that is of a, excuse me, of a higher quality. But that being said, we will be back in the coming days with more comments. But overall, I mean, it is a beautiful guitar. I think they call it Maple Forge Glow or something, but it's a really, really pretty sunburst. And from what I can tell, just preliminary investigation, build quality is really nice. The choice of wood, the grain, you know, again, very nice. Light as a feather, does have a bit of neck dive that one would expect. My Casino Coupe also does. If anyone at Gretsch is ever listening, and I doubt they are, I wish they put a jack plate. This makes this guitar really vulnerable for problems. And of course, if you have an issue with your jack plate, you have to do the fishing out. If it had the jack plate and you could pull it out, you could resolder it or adjust the inside guts and make it. But it's a firm connection right now, and I'm just going to keep my eye on to make sure this thing doesn't get loose. I wish they put a little Loctite on it too, which they may or may not, I have no idea. But anyways, so this is the Gretsch, the G2655, the ES339 sized G Streamliner model. So I've got the big one and the little one. And really nice guitars, and again, for the price, Adorama calls it a closeout. I think what they did was, the next version of this is going to have the continuing upgrade of the pickups. I don't know what they're called, but there was the one, these are the twos and the threes, and I think on this particular model they're getting rid of the block inlay and going back with the Gretsch thumbnail, which, you know, it's all just a matter of aesthetics, affects playability. I mean, the pickup change may have some effect on the tone. I don't know. You know, it's always new, everything's new. So anyways, we will be back. And yes, it is January the 4th, 2024. Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome back, everybody. It is now February the 2nd, 2024. And we're doing the wrap-up. This is the unboxing / review of the Gretsch G2655 Streamliner. This is the smaller, the ES39 339 version guitar. I've got also purchased about 3 weeks before I got this one, the Gretsch G2622, which is the ES335 size guitar. So I've had this guitar now for about a month, 4 weeks. Been playing it every day. Overall, I really like this guitar. Considering it was on sale at Adorama for $219, it was an absolute bargain. The normal price for these is between $350, $375, different iterations, colors. The ones with the Bigsby on it go anywhere from $400 to $450. Some of the, I don't know if they're custom colors or just ordered by the specific company. I've seen some for $500. If I would have spent that much for this guitar, I wouldn't have been as satisfied, and here's why. First of all, this guitar probably had the sharpest fret ends of almost any new guitar that I've ever purchased, and that includes some really inexpensive guitars. I've since sat down and put a little time in, which is no big deal, but what's odd about it is that its sister guitar, the G2622, had perfectly smooth fret ends. And they were both made about the same time, in the same factory in Indonesia, shipped to the same company, sat in the same warehouse. So I don't know if it's just a matter of the wood on this one wasn't dried out enough, it was too dry. But then what makes it even stranger is that, so I did a nice job, cleaned up the fret ends, made them nice. And about 2 weeks later, they started feeling sharp again. And, okay, well, the weather here hasn't been extremely dry. It's been cold and the furnace has been on, but I have other guitars that are sitting around that no issues with the fret ends at all. So again, I just don't know if it's the, Indian Laurel fretboard. Just, anyway, so it's going to need a little more attention. So that's the first thing that's not digging. The second thing was, within 2 days of owning this, the output jack was so loose it almost fell in the guitar. And for all you semi-hollow body people out there, you know what a pain in the butt that can be. Fortunately, I noticed it. I took my time, gently tightened up the nut to make sure I wasn't spinning it, and possibly breaking or twisting the wires. And then I took a little bit of clear nail polish and just put it around the edge. Most people suggest taking the whole thing apart. I'm too lazy to do that. I just put it around the edge on the lip here, and thus far it feels nice and tight. So that was, and then I went online and read some forums, and people were saying how they don't even bother to put lock washers. I don't understand for the life of me why they don't put a jack plate on this guitar. Not only is it more stable, but if you do have an issue, you take the 2 or 4 screws, depending on the iteration of the jack plate, and you can pull it out, and you can resolder or make an adjustment. There's no excuse for this. So they should have put a jack plate on it. The third thing is the G2622, which is this sister model of this guitar, has the exact same, off-brand tuners, and it tunes fine. This one has 2 really crappy tuners on it, and I mean really crappy. The good news is that once you dial it in, it stays in tune. So from a practical point of view, it does what it's supposed to do. But they're very sloppy, a lot of lash, a lot of. So, and they also, you can actually hear metal on metal grinding. At first, I thought maybe they didn't put the bushing in between the button and the shaft. because that's where it sounds like it's metal to metal. I put a little silicone spray in, it did absolutely nothing. Didn't change it at all. But again, the good news is it stays in tune. And the final complaint or observation is, again, and I know this is the bottom of the line guitar for Gretsch, but you know, at the MAP price of $400 to $450, they have a lot of competition. And yes, you do get the name Gretsch, which for most younger people means nothing, because Gretsch just really was never a leader of the pack. It's more of the older people like me who appreciate the history of Gretsch and the lineage and the people who have played Gretsch guitars. So there's a lot of competition, and the potentiometers on this guitar are not very good. They're like on and off, right? There's no great sweep in the volume or the tone. That being said, you get a nice tone out of this. This has the second generation pseudo Gretsch, whatever. Gretsch was always big with names. Yeah, they don't sound like a Gretsch, and everyone knows that. Everyone knows that the Streamliners have their own thing going. It has a nice tone to it. I like it. And finally, what's interesting is this has a bit of neck dive on it, and you know, I guess that would be expected for a smaller body guitar. But I have an Epiphone Casino Coupe that, by all accounts, it's the same size, and we'll get to that in a moment. It doesn't seem to have any neck dive at all. So there's just something about this guitar. But when you're sitting down, and if you notice, I have a leather strap, and it has sort of the unfinished inside, and so that, you know, grips your shoulder, and that keeps it from going anywhere. But overall, it is a very nice guitar. Yeah. So then back to the size. So this case here, you notice this case, just happened to pop up for sale on Musician's Friend, and this was advertised as for an Epiphone Wildcat. And so I did some deep digging to find out that the Wildcat is basically the same size as the Epiphone Casino Coupe and the ES339. So this was an open box condition 3, which potentially could have been thrashed. It came and it was absolutely brand new. Had a little bit of smuts on it, and so yeah. And someone had mentioned that this should be a perfect fit for this guitar, and I believe it turned out that it absolutely was. Fits like a glove. So, for anyone out there who has this model Gretsch, you can be assured that if you can find a 339, a Casino Coupe, or a Wildcat case, it is in fact a snug as a bug in a rug fit. Fits absolutely perfectly. There's a little bit of space on the side here, so I guess but it catches, I guess this is nice and firm, so this space right here doesn't, well, I guess it does move. So there's a little movement. It's not going anywhere. Sits nice and low. Headstock fits. It's not touching. So overall, quite satisfied. Glad that I was able to pick this up for a mere $75 rather than the $129 that they're usually asking for these. Which is ridiculous, because it's just a cheap Chinese case with a silk screen Epiphone on it. Nothing special. So, there you go. So that's the conclusion. So yes, this was the unboxing of the Gretsch G2655. I almost bought the P90 version, and this is going to sound really superficial, but hey, I'm superficial. I didn't like the color. The claret burst was just too dark. I wish they would have done this. I think this is called Maple Glow Forge, or yeah, the guys in marketing have a good time making up all these names for just what is essentially a sunburst guitar. Maybe down the road sometime, if the price is right. I waited too long. Pro Audio Star was selling them for $260, and I kept putting it in my cart and thinking about it, and I thought, well, I've got the Casino Coupe, and from what I understand, they, according to both Fender, which does the distribution for Gretsch Guitars and Sweetwater, they both said that the Casino Coupe is out of production. They discontinued it. So I thought best that I should hold on to my Casino for the time being, since I can't replace it if I decide to go backwards in time. So anyways, thank you very much for joining me. I do believe, as of today, again, which is February 2nd, 2024, if you go to Slick Deals, and at the top of the page you type in Gretsch, and then it goes to another page and you scroll down, I do believe that Adorama is still offering both this guitar and its big brother, the G2655, for $219, which is, now I do believe these are the discontinued models. I believe that the newer models, they got rid of the block inlay, which I don't love, but hey, who cares? And then these are the version 2 pickups, and the newer one has the version 3 pickups, which again, bunch of hyperbole for me. I don't know, you know, it's also subjective. You like what you like and you don't like what you don't like, and yeah, so I don't know if one's better than the other. But anyways, if you're interested, Slick Deals, Gretsch, Adorama, it really is a good price, shipped, free shipping to your front door. And the quality on these, other than the few things I mentioned, and maybe I just got an oddball because, like I said, the big brother didn't have these issues at all. Well, it did. It didn't have the tuner issues, and it didn't have the fret end issues. The potentiometers are identical, and they're pretty flaky, but you get what you pay for. Anyways, thank you for dropping by. This was the last purchase of 2023. Taking a bit of a vacation, not only to let my wallet relax, but the truth is I've pretty much dipped my toes and tried every guitar that I was pretty much interested in, definitely in the lower range. I have no desire at this point, even if I had all the money in the world, to actually pick up Gibsons or Fenders or the more expensive Gretsch guitars, or for that matter Martins. And you know, you get to a certain age where it's just those things. And the quality of these import guitars with CNC machines, and you know, unfortunately, I won't call it slave labor. It might be, but it's certainly depressed wages labor. But the quality of these guitars is pretty outstanding. Now, again, I don't know if I'll live long enough to know if they stand the test of time. But you go on Reverb and you see a lot of people are asking $200, $300, $400, $500, $600, $700 for cheap. I think back in the day they were probably more likely made in Japan than China, but the cheap guitars to satisfy the guitar craze of the 60s that were not well-made guitars at all. And yet many of them have survived. So maybe this will survive into the future as well. But as of today, it works good, and it's a pleasure to own, and it's a little bit different than the other guitars I have, so I've enjoyed it. Anyways, here's to a Happy New Year to everybody. Love your neighbor, kiss your wife, pet your dog, scratch your cat, and smile more, and be more grateful. Thank you very much.